Oh boy, we have gotten a lot of snow, and it's time for me. I'm running behind on getting my hives insulated for winter. So I have to do it today no matter what, because it's going to get so cold tonight, tomorrow, 11 below zero, I think, chill factor tomorrow night. So I'm going to put these inserts in this top box, and then I'm going to put my bat insulation on top of that. I got 3-foot drifts around my hives. All right. All right, so we're going to take this out. We're going to put the insulation back. We're not going to use these feeders anymore. They're empty. All right. Then we're going to take this insulation, the board insulation. We're going to put it down in here like that. Oh, perfect. And then we're going to put this back in there for more top insulation. Just pack it in there as much as we can. That'd even be better. All right, then we're going to put the top back on. And then after I'm going to start doing the tops. And after I get the tops done, I got to put the sides on. The entrances are clogged too. There we go. Look at the sides that are plastered. Wow. Not a good year to start trying to get bees through the winter when it's this crazy already. Wow. I can't even find the rock on top. Yeah, I'm here in Illinois. For those of you just tuning in and you don't know much about my channel, I live in central Illinois. We've had already our share of cold weather, man, and our share of snow. It's been pretty crazy. Look at that. Taking my feeders off. Oh, bees. I got bees and bugs. Look at all those Asian beetles, but look at these bees in here. Do you see them? They're right up here at the feeder wanting food. Look at that. We're not going to make them stay losing heat too long, so we're going to put this in here. And so it brings up a, sorry for the jerky camera, but I'm out in the frozen tundra of Illinois. So it brings up a good question about putting on the winter bee kind boards. Not going to put them on just yet. My bees have plenty of food, although this one being so high up at the top does concern me. So I usually don't put my winter bee kind boards on until late December into January, because most hives make it through okay. Yeah, but we'll keep an eye on maybe putting this one on a bit earlier. Wow, look at the snow on that. The whole top cover's heavy. The entrance, I gotta make sure the entrance is clear. Nope, it's clogged. Here, I opened up a little bit. You can see how clogged, the entrance, I opened that up. This entrance has a little opening there from the heat probably. Nothing here. Let's just open up a little bit. Oh, that's iced over? Oh, there we go. Wow, look at that ice that's melted here. That's hard ice. Dang. All right, I'll get that one open. This one's got a little bit of opening. Let's go check these out here. Man, look at that. Isn't that awful? Look at that. How deep that snow is. All right, these are opened. All right, we're okay on these. We just need to insulate them. Got our work cut out. Already got one insulated over here. You can see that wrapped around the sides there. So today, before tonight, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, we're not even hardly into the first week in December and we're getting blasted with this. What are we going to do? This is tough, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy out there to see this kind of snow, this kind of cold weather already. And we're 3 weeks away from the first day of winter. Wow. Well, you got to do what you got to do. And as you know, I don't usually wrap my hives. But I'm glad I'm wrapping them this year. I've waited this long to wrap them. So today, when I saw the forecast dipping all the way down into, I think, 11, 15 below zero, something like that with the wind chill factor, man, it's time to do something. So probably all of you, all across the U.S., with the exception of the far west, far south, you're probably dealing with these concerns about how are your bees going to be faring through all this cold weather, this cold snap that we're having. And like I said, we've got winter to go. So I'm choosing this year to wrap up my hives, and I especially have been concentrating on putting a lot of insulation on top. And I think that's the winner right there. Now, I'm not putting my winter bee kinds on just yet. They've got plenty of food. A lot of them are still pretty far down in the hive, and they haven't even gotten up into their honey stores yet. A few of them today, I mean, they were already up there, as you saw, and I think that is like, whoa, are they hungry? What are they doing up there? Well, I might have to put some winter bee kinds on them because they look like they were saying, hey, David, we're hungry. So, oh yeah. Now this year I've chosen to wrap my hives and do all of that stuff. You know, I think we all have different views on ways to wrap. Every time I show a video where I'm wrapping my hives or doing something, everyone has to leave a comment and ask, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of that? Or this person is doing that. A guy made a video doing this. You leave all these comments like that. Look, I think that we all have a right to prepare our bees for winter the way we want to and the way that we feel works best for our bees. I don't think that my way is always the only way or the best way, the right way. It's just the way that I like to do it. And next year I may change. And you've heard me say it on my channel many times before. I'm not the kind of beekeeper that says do it my way or the highway. I don't believe that. I think you have a right to do what you want to, what works good for you. I do it my way, you do you, I do me, and we get along just fine. I think that's the way it should be. But boy, there's some strong opinions out there, and some people will put their foot down and say, no, this is the only way to do it. Historically, I haven't even wrapped my hives, and they do pretty good. So this year, though, I'm kind of glad because, man, it's getting cold out there, and I'm feeling a little bit better when I see what my bees are just having to do to stay in survival mode all winter long. I think a wrap is going to help them this winter. And I know there's different kind of wraps. I know all about the condensing hive. The godfather of the condensing hive is a friend of mine, Bill Heschbaugh, and I understand his approach and everything. I think it's a good idea. I think those of you that use it, you're on the right track. I choose to do it. Mine are kind of like the condensing hive. I don't really heavily ventilate, but the winter bee kind does have a tiny little opening at the top, and that's just to allow bees to exit out of the top if they need to. But I think we all have different approaches to beekeeping. And of all the things that are being invented, that are being encouraged for us to use, you know, people are saying, use this fondant, use this feeder, use this wrap, use this new hive, use all of these new things. It's supposed to help your bees get through the winter better. And last year, we had the highest rate of bee die-offs with all of those new things that were guaranteed to keep our bees warmer and healthier all winter. More seemed to die last year than ever. So I don't know if the things that we're throwing at them are really the answers. I think the answer is for all of us to really embrace bee biology, learn how to read our hives, read our frames, learn what the bees are saying to us, watch and observe our bees, and make changes, make improvements, adapt new science and adapt new things that are coming up if it's going to help us. But at the same time, we can't just assume that all the new things that we hear about is the silver bullet that's going to make everything better. I've been doing this for 30 years. 30 years ago, people were making queens that were supposed to be mite resistant. I was doing VSH queens and liquid nitrogen tests, and I was raising my own bees, trying to raise bees that were more mite resistance. And I made a little bit of headway. People are making a little bit of headway. I think that's good that we're doing that. But we still don't have a 100%, way of keeping our bees alive without a lot of hard work. So don't feel like you're all alone. If you're somebody that says, man, I did all my mite tests, I did all my treatments, I bought a VSH queen, an ankle biter, you buy all these queens that are supposed to be really great. And again, they do they do offer another tool in the toolbox, but they don't stand alone. All the things that we're presented, they don't singularly save the day for our bees. And it comes down to us really doing what we can to become really good beekeepers, great beekeepers, and know how to handle bees so that they're ready for winter. I think a lot of people that are in my position right now facing a hard winter are pretty concerned that we might see the same, even worse, bee loss than we saw last year. My goodness, I hope not. Fingers crossed that we won't. But I suspect that what's happening, all right, just hear me out. What's happening is there are many beekeepers getting into beekeeping without a mentor, without a lot of experience behind or under their belt. And so the problems that come up in beekeeping can be so challenging during the beekeeping season that a lot of beekeepers that are new, 1 to 5 year beekeepers, don't see that some of the things they face during the warm beekeeping season, these problems will continue to get worse until the hive dies in the fall or the winter. That's getting to be a lot more common. And examples of this could be a queen issue where you can't get a good laying queen. Maybe your hive won't accept a queen, or she's not laying good. And maybe some beekeepers don't realize that they don't have a good laying queen. Without a good laying queen all season long in your hive, it can be something that shows up in a very profound way in the fall and in the winter, because you have a low number of winter bees, diutinous bees. And so that can be another thing that can be really challenging. So, we want to blame the mites, and they are a big deal. The viruses that they spread, we want to blame the winter and say it's the winter, the cold weather that makes it hard on our bees to get through the winter. And it does, it can, but healthy colony with low mites, with a good laying queen and plenty of nutrition can really put up with a lot and get through. And that's why we see usually 50% of bees, we always say 50% of bees die every winter to the hobbyists. More for commercial beekeepers that have been doing it forever. Experienced commercial beekeepers, they're losing upwards of 60 to 70%. And they're good at it, and most of them are in warm climates. So I think it boils down to us understanding that it's not just 50% died, but we need to consider, why did 50% make it? I think we need to look at that. If you have, let's say, 10 hives and you go through winter, let's say last year, and 5 of your hives died, 5 lived, I would want to go back through all of my notes and say, I'm going to look through the notes of the 5 hives that lived. And I'm going to say, what queen was in there? Was it a new queen, an old queen? Did I feed them? Did they ever swarm? Did they have low mite counts? How often did I treat them? What treatments did I use? Did I harvest honey off of those? Did I leave them enough for winter? What were all the scenarios that led to, we have surveys after surveys people fill out as to why bees died. I don't know why we're not talking about why bees live, why hives are making it. That's where the survey should be. Did your hive survive winter? Please fill out this survey. Let us know everything about this hive and why they survived winter. I think that would be so cool. I mean, that's what I do. I look at bees that survived the winter in my operation, and I say, those are the ones I'm going to raise queens from. They're good breeder queens. I think it's awesome to consider when a hive survives, and I don't mean just survive. I mean, when they survive and they're very robust coming out of winter, that's the key. Oh, here's the other thing. Listen to this. This is going to be really important. I think it's critical that we shift our thinking, because a lot of people say, what was your survival rate? Meaning, how many hives did you have that survived? What was your survival rate? Listen to our words we're using. A hive that survives may not necessarily be a real strong, robust hive. So a lot of hives that survived, of the 50% of hives that survived, some of them are barely hanging on. They barely make it. I want to get my hives through winter, and I want them to come out of winter very populated, very robust. And that's why I take the philosophy of feeding my bees very heavily all winter long. I feed them heavily in the fall, feed them heavy all winter, and I feed them heavy in the spring before the dandelions bloom. Because I have found that I don't want very small, sickly bees surviving winter, barely surviving. I want bees to be extremely robust. More and more people are starting to understand the need to feed our bees. Now, there's still a lot of people that in beekeeping that feel like, I don't think we should have to feed our bees. I don't think it's necessary. Bees should get along fine without us having to feed our bees. And they can, particularly if you live in a very, a perfect place for bees to live. That means that you have a very long season of warm weather and you have a very good spot where nectar is being produced, let's say March through November. That's a long spread and you have a very short winter, then, that's not bad for bees. And bees probably could endure that. I don't know when the last time here in Illinois that we've had a temperature above freezing this year already. It has been at least, don't quote me on this, but I think it's been nearly 2 weeks since it's been 32 above freezing. And so this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. When you live in a climate like the Midwest or the far north, those of you know what it's like to get bees through the winter, you got to put a lot more thought into having your bees survive winter because, our bees are going to be kept in a hive without anything to forage on, maybe 4 to 5 months. It's going to be cold. And so a lot of you are new to beekeeping and you're watching this video and you're just wringing your hands out because you're really worried about your bees. Like, oh, this temperature, oh, these winds. It's going to be so cold and windy here tomorrow and tomorrow night. And a lot of you are experiencing the same thing and you're worried about your bees. Here's the thing. You've done all you could do. I mean, at this point, I've done all I could do. I got a few more to wrap up. It was cold wrapping my hives today. But I've done all I can do. I tried to get them as healthy as I could before winter. I kept the mite levels down. I made sure they had good queens in there. Made sure they had an extra super of honey for more food. And I'm going to feed them all winter. I fed them good in the fall. I've done everything I can. And that's why, am I worried about it? No, I'm not worried about it. Will some of them die? It's a strong possibility. I mean, we don't really know why all the bees are beekeepers are having the bee loss that they do. We think it could be, from viruses. We think it might be some Amitraz resistance. I don't know. We have these theories that we throw out, but there could be things that we discover in 50 years that we realize that, wow, 50 years ago, beekeepers didn't know this is why their bees were dying in the winter. It might take us a while to really put it all together. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of things against bees. But here's the deal. We did what we could. You did the best you could. I did the best I could. Let it be. Just let it be calm and be relaxed about it. If your bees die, it's regrettable. It's frustrating. You have to either get a new nook or package or catch a swarm or something. Okay, you still got the box. You still got drawn comb. You can pick up. So don't sweat it. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the winter as much as you can. Do what you can to protect your bees and, keep them from being blasted by cold winter winds. But just understand that as beekeepers, one of the things that we always have to do is be very resilient, and we have to be able to kind of deal with whatever Mother Nature throws at us. That's the heart of the beekeeper. Now, I mentioned that some beekeepers may struggle during the bee season of summer, spring and summer. They may struggle to identify problems in the hive. They may not see what's going on and not be able to prepare their bees for winter. I've got a great live stream coming up tomorrow. I hope you'll tune in at 7 p.m. Central Time because I'll be talking about something that I think we're missing and it needs to be embraced, and that is understanding how to be an interpretive beekeeper. I spoke about this in Texas when I gave some talks down there last week or a couple of weeks ago. And a lot of beekeepers are really good at identifying things, but may not have the skills to interpret and analyze, diagnose, and know what they need to do based on what they see. So I'm going to be teaching tomorrow night on my live stream interpretive beekeeping. I'm excited about this. I really am. I think it's going to help a lot of beekeepers. I think it's going to help us see a better survival rate once more and more beekeepers get on track with interpretive beekeeping. So be sure and join me tomorrow night, 7 p.m. if you're watching this when this video is released. You can always watch the replay of all my live streams. Another bit of news that you may not have heard about yet is that we can use more oxalic acid to kill more mites. The rules have changed on that. If you're someone that uses heat vaporization in your hives like I do to control your mites, you may want to check this video out. Breaking news. I'll see you over there.